2, here, let's go back.
Today's video is sponsored by W Jitterless Energy Blend, formulated to give you the focus and energy with no jitters or crash. Their formula contains vitamins, amino acids, and nootropics, including the patented Neurofactor, with more than 10 different flavors to enjoy and start your day strong. Are you ready to try W? Visit W.GG today and use promo code ARROWWAN to save 10% on your purchase today. Welcome. How you guys doing today? Welcome to the show. This is Tuned In Live Podcast. You guys have joined us today on our platforms. We are live on twitch.tv/ArrowENT, kick.com/Arrow Entertainment, and our YouTube channel, of course, Arrow Entertainment. If you guys yet to do so, hit that like and subscribe button down below. Also, if you guys want to follow us on social media, if you guys want to follow any of the team members on any other streaming platforms as well, links are down below for those. And we are live in the Discord today. If you guys want to be on today's show, if you want to join in today with me, the link for the Discord is down below. Click it today, join us on the server, feel free to hop in whenever. So yeah, today is a special day. Today is going to be a special episode. I'm not going to talk too much about politics like I usually do. You know, politics can be kind of depressing at times, you know? But it is what it is, you know, like, everybody knows what's going to happen, you know, this is the election year, 2024. We're all very hopeful that Donald Trump will be the next president. Doritos farts, yes. Yes. Rated Doritos farts. If you guys missed our last episode, well, last week's episode of Utter Random Crap, go check that out. That was definitely an interesting episode where Tom and I discussed vegans versus meat eaters. And I've come across a particular individual on TikTok who claims to be the somewhat son of that vegan teacher, very controversial, I don't want to say icon, but person on social media like TikTok. Oh, damn. TikTok, YouTube, and such. And he was throwing a debate. He was having a live debate 4 or 5 nights in a row last week on TikTok. for 3 or 4 hours each. And he was very livid. He was extremely livid. He would bring people in and ask them, "Hey, are you ready to convert to veganism? Are you ready to be a vegan? Are you ready to stop the slaughter of animals?" And the most hilarious part of it is all these people that could not stand him or could not stand the fact that vegans are kind of like Jehovah's Witnesses of a vegetarian diet, where they're trying to push their propaganda, push their agenda onto you. It's like the left. I compare vegans to the left, who try to push their agenda on people. And that's what he was doing. He didn't want to hear anybody's side. He didn't want to hear actual facts and statements about why people would not choose a vegetarian life. Anytime somebody would give him any kind of information at all, any factual information, he would hang up on them and go, "Nope, you're done. You're done." But yeah, there's a whole 2.5-hour stream of that. If you guys missed Utter Random Crap from Friday after this show, go back and check it out. It's definitely worth a watch. So today's topic I want to talk about, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to play this TikTok video that I come across last night. And it's and the person who stitched it claimed that it was a very controversial video. I don't know why, because I've never seen or heard of it to be controversial. Let's go ahead and take a look at it.
Have you seen this controversial video making its way across the internet? Take a listen and let me know how you feel.
Millennials might be the last generation to have experienced the world when it was still truly beautiful. And hear me out on this, because I haven't been able to stop thinking about this since I realized this is where it all changed. And this is the TikTok that you're going to be thinking about all week long. So in order for this to sink in, as long as you're not driving, what I want you to do is close your eyes. Because it's the summer of 2006. It's 10 a.m. You're just a kid. You're lying in your bed in your room, and you are bored. There is nothing to do because there's nothing good on TV. You don't have a cell phone, and you can't use the internet because you're not allowed to, because it ties up the phone line. The whole house is quiet. And that's why you can hear the breeze outside. And that's where we all got acquainted with that bird that we came to know so well. And you are just lying there, wondering if your crush is thinking about you, wondering if there's still pizza rolls in the freezer, wondering what it is you're going to do today. And that quiet isn't interrupted by a notification. That quiet is interrupted by the doorbell. Or maybe it's one of 30 texts that you'll get this month because that's all you paid for on your plan. But your day is interrupted by your squad who shows up on bikes, or maybe they have an older sibling that came to pick you up in their vehicle, and that's like a really, really good day. And when your friends show up, that's when the whole day starts, and you all go out together, and you don't have cell phones, you're just with each other, and you talk to each other face to face. And here's the really big one, is whatever you do today is going to boil down to 3 solid options. You're either going to hit the mall, and you don't go to shop or spend money. Like, you're not going to actually do anything. It's just to be somewhere else together. And you're not going to buy anything or spend any money unless maybe you bump into your crush and their friend group. And then maybe you spend the little money that you have in your pocket to go to the movies or hit the food court. But it's not about the movie, and it's not about the food. It's about the people that you're with. Option number 2 is heading over to somebody's house so that you can all be bored together. And this is where the best memories of our entire lives came from. These are the days and memories that are going to stick with you in your mind, that make you happy just remembering them, and they will stick with you until the day you die. And the thing is, they came off the back of a day that was just boring, but you were with your friends, and you don't realize how special that is when you're in that moment. But you will when you're grown. And those moments are memorable because of the people that you're with. Do you notice a pattern here? Because option number 3, which is going to resonate more for the guys, but option number 3 was heading over to somebody's house for a LAN party or a Halo party, and you all just play video games together. And you're playing in the same house. And it's not really about winning, because it kind of is, but it's not. It's about the people who you are physically with. Now, I want you to open your eyes, because we flash forward almost 20 years, and everything I just mentioned still happens, but it's all been corrupted by technology, convenience, and making a buck. Nobody is bored today. Every single second of our lives is trying to be captured by a company. And these corporations are doing that in exchange for what they say is convenience. But here's the thing, even though movies come straight to our devices, we are all watching them alone. Even though we can place the order online and skip the line, we are all eating alone. You can still play video games with your friends. Gen Z and Gen Alpha love doing this. There's Fortnite wizards everywhere. Everybody loves these video games, but the thing is it's all pay to play. It's all microtransactions. You don't buy a game and enjoy it until the next one comes out. There's all kinds of DLC content that you have to pay for, but the really, really big one is that Gen Z and Gen Alpha, when they're playing with their friends are in their ear. They're not right next to them. This generation is never going to know what it's like to get a Kilimanjaro and look across the room at your friend like, what just happened? That's over. And we're not bored anymore. Every single second of our day is controlled by devices with people who are telling us how to think and what to think. I'm doing it to you right now. Your mind isn't idle. It's consuming content that's been created by someone else. And that's the final layer on this like corruption of everything that used to be good about having downtime. Capitalism has brought us to this place where no one is ever bored, and goods and services are so easily accessible and so customizable that going to the mall or picking a movie or deciding what to eat is no longer about the people that we do that with. It's about us. I can skip the line, place my order online, but I'm not eating with my friends. I can watch the newest shows on my device, but I'm watching them alone. We're doing the same things today that we used to do, but instead of bringing us closer together, the things that we're doing today are isolating us from the people around us. Families watch their shows on their own devices in separate rooms today. Having friends in 2024 doesn't mean the same thing that it did in 2004. And I'm pretty convinced that human beings are not designed to operate like this. We deserve and need face-to-face contact with people who genuinely care about us and who we feel we belong in a tribe with or a group with. And it makes me so sad, but so grateful to be a part of a generation that was literally the last generation to experience the world where that still happened pretty frequently. And I guess I'm thinking about this a lot this week when every ad on my phone has been for this new Apple device that you put on your head, and your children are no longer going to recognize you as mom or dad, but just this like half machine, half person thing. I know you can see straight through it to the little person who's asking you for food, the peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but they're not seeing you. You might see them, but we're just like drifting apart as a species. And the more that we drift apart, the more that we crave the simpler times when we didn't have all of these distractions. We just had each other. So if you're a millennial and you feel like the world has lost its innocence, maybe that's something that happens with every generation, or maybe this is actually the turning point where humanity stops being what it once was. Let me know where you think we are in the comments.
Those are some very powerful words, aren't they? It's a very powerful message. I wouldn't call that controversial like some people are doing. Actually, to some people might be a very tearful thing. The fact that we are possibly, like, I was born in 85. I'm 38 years old, guys. Too fucking old. Christ. I remember the good old days back in the 90s growing up, you know, like being able to go outside and hang with my friends, ride my bike around a neighborhood, take some toys outside and play with them in the dirt, you know, whether with my brothers or even have some friends over, you know. I didn't have too many friends when I was young. I had a small group of friends. We all used to hang out, talk, and play games, and we used our imaginations on stuff. But man, those were simpler times, like he said, you know? What's going on there, Hoyt? Yeah, he does have a really great point. He does. Like today, our kids, they don't know how much fun it was back then to climb around in the jungle gym or run around with your friends, and you're outside, you end up getting, scraping your knee, getting cut up by a fucking rose bush or something, because you're having so much fun. You're creating your own adventures outdoors, with your friends, even indoors. Today, and I know there's some kids today that do enjoy going outside and getting their little exercise in and playing with their friends. Like, I'm just glad that my stepdaughter Avery, I'm glad she does that. She has a variety in her life. I'm really happy for that. Yes, when she's indoors, sometimes her face is in her phone, or she's playing on a laptop. She's playing some kind of game. But she's also very creative, too. She likes to be creative, She'll print out pictures and cut them out and make little projects, paper and cardboard. She loves to paint. She loves to do a lot of that stuff. And I feel like, when I look at her, and she's born into this Gen Z generation, she is somebody who is very creative, but here's the thing. She is manipulated with technology. And I know I'm guilty of it too, My daughter, even though my daughter, she does draw, she loves to paint. And let me tell you, see, my daughter, she's been drawing for years. And she's gotten a lot better. She's taken art classes. She's taken all kind of classes for, creativity. And she's gotten really good at drawing. And I could see her future. She could definitely be an artist. But as, her hobbies go, and I know she don't have too many friends herself, So all her friends are through a computer screen on the other side of a keyboard that she could talk to. She could put headphones on and get into voice chats and talk with. But some of those people she can actually interact with at school, and that's cool too. But that is the sad nature of how life is going right now, how life is evolving. Take a look back at 2020, when we were all forced not only to get this magical vaccine that's killing people, that's altering our DNAs and shit, but we were all forced to stay away from one another. And they tried to remind you, hey, it's not just you. We're all in this together. But the thing is, illnesses are going to be around forever. We're not. This COVID strain, the original COVID strain, yes, it's going to be around for a while. It's not going away. But it's not a big pandemic like they all wanted to claim to be. I didn't start playing on my computer until I was like 5, play outside and watch my shit on TV all the time back in the day. Yeah, we all did, man. I did too. In fact, even before, I had my favorite shows on TV that I knew what time they came on. Certain cartoons, certain TV shows. Hell, I remember, one of my favorite shows was Friday nights or whenever it came on, Alf. Alf was big back in the 80s and into the 90s. You used to watch Alf. I used to sit in my mom's favorite chair in the living room and have my face buried in that TV, sort of. We had this... Back then, TVs, oh my God. If I had one, I would still have an old tube TV set up. Not these LED or LCD TVs, with the big light and, that had the motherboards and shit like that in them, and you could have access to Netflix and Hulu and all that stuff. Nah, give me an old school CRT television. We had one of those that was like I think it was like a 13-inch, maybe a 15-inch. I can't remember. TV in the living room. Like, can you imagine? Like, some families had a TV that big. 13. Like, can you imagine right now if you're looking at like your TV, and I guarantee today's standard household has a flat screen that's either 32, anywhere between 32 and 55 inches. You had Dora Explorer, Blue Clues, and shit like that. Yeah, I had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I had Alf. We had a lot of different cartoon varieties back then. Even the very early Nickelodeon, and this was before Cartoon Network came into play, you know, with cartoons like Dexter's Laboratory, Johnny Bravo, and Courage the Cowardly Dog, you know. But yeah, our cable, we had cable. You know, cable was installed. You know, I didn't have a TV in my bedroom. I did, but I didn't have cable TV. If I wanted to watch cable TV, it was either in our living room or in my parents' bedroom. That's where the cable TV was at. My television, I had a 13-inch black and white 2-knob television that ran with those rabbit ear antennas. And I know some people listening, if you're young, you probably never had that. You probably never got to experience that. But a television where its only signal was analog through the air, being picked up by a receiver antenna somewhere, where television stations carried over the airwaves, that kind of thing. And I had a pair of rabbit ear antennas hooked to my television. And let me tell you something. When you're trying to get a channel into a clear picture when it's all snowy and shit, and you got to readjust those antennas and, you know, to a certain angle to where you can actually watch TV. Did I watch Chipmunks back? Yes, I did watch Alvin and the Chipmunks back in the 80s. The Alvin and the Chipmunks show. I did watch that when it came out in, like, I think 86 or 87, whatever it was. I used to watch that on a daily basis, too. That was on early Nickelodeon as well. Can't remember if it was on any of the channels. Like, back in the day, oh, God. Not too many people know, you know, like, when you hear about CBS and ABC and NBC, you usually think of those streaming apps, right? You know, like ABC or CBS, you know, the CBS app. They still got those channels out there if you have cable television. But back then, we had different channels for anything. Like, you know, they would air any kind of programming, whether it was at night, in the evening, whether it was on the weekends. You know, Saturday mornings was such a blast, you know. You had channels on Fox. You had TV shows on Fox on Saturday mornings when that started. CBS had their Saturday morning lineup. ABC, NBC, not as much, but ABC and CBS, you know, they had classic TV shows like The Smurfs, He-Man, Ninja Turtles, all that good stuff. And their lineup would start at like 7 a.m. and it would go off the air at like noon or 1 o'clock. And of course, during the week, you know, channels like that, they would air nothing but soap operas, you know, The Days of Our Lives, Young and the Restless. You know, if your parents watched that back in the 90s and shit, you know what I'm talking about. You know, that's all you would hear throughout the house is that fucking theme song from one of those television shows, you know, Knots Landing. And that's all there was on those TV stations. We have yet to discover or have any of those court TV reality shows. We have yet to have any of those obscure programming, you know, television shows that you have today. Today, it's not like it was back in the 90s. You know, kids back in the 90s ruled the airwaves. You know, we had different cartoons on the weekends. After school during the week, we had Fox Kids. The Fox Kids network, oh my god, that would start at like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And it would go off the air at like 6 o'clock. And we're talking shows like The Tick, Bobby's World, Tasmania, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Spider-Man, X-Men, Goosebumps that came late in the 90s, like mid 90s. Goosebumps was based off, you know, they did the shows based off the books. That was my ritual every afternoon when I got out of school, was Fox Kids. Whether it be in my parents' bedroom, reality shows are cancer, especially Honey Boo Boo. Yeah, I never got into reality shows. It's all stupid bullshit right there. It's all fake. Like, look at what YouTube is. YouTube has a lot of shows like that, like McJuggernuggets, Kid Behind the Camera with the Angry Grandpa show. Like, some of them can be a little entertaining, and the best thing about those, there's, you know, they're not, even though they're scripted, but they're done freelancely by people who are on YouTube, you know, original content creators, you know, you're doing it yourself, that kind of thing. But yeah, those fucking reality shows, yeah, they like you said, they are cancerous. They're pretty fucking stupid. But yeah, back in the day, that's what we had. That's what we had on there. Fox Kids Network. Then on the weekends you had, you know, TV shows like, you know, Ninja Turtles and such on CBS. ABC had their lineup and all. Yeah, God, those were fun days on TV, man. I tell you. And then you look today. Where's all your cartoon shows at? Where's all your interesting shows at right now? Oh, I'm texting somebody. Okay. Jesse, honest to God, hasn't been too entertaining since pre-COVID. His videos, his earlier videos, as viral as they went, I did like them. Like, you know, the early Psycho Dad stuff. Like, I knew it wasn't real, but as the series progressed, they've gotten more unrealistic. Like, you could tell it's definitely fake. But he was lying to his fan base. You know, he was using his fan base. You know, they were sending him money. They were sending him video games and shit. You know, they were sending him this and that. His fan base were like the dumbest people around. You know, they were sending him their private stuff. They were sending him shit that he didn't need. And he told people at times, don't send me this. I'm good. But they didn't understand. You know, there was a lot of people that come in from those days, and they were just idiots. It was amazing, you know, funny. But we didn't have that back in the day. No, we didn't have that at all. You know, in fact, the only things we had was maybe certain TV shows on television. Some of us had video game consoles. We were lucky enough. I had an NES growing up. Story behind that. So, my dad, he had an Atari 2600. I don't remember where he said he got it, or where he bought it at. Video game consoles back in the day were, oh my God, they were astronomically expensive. Like Ataris back then, shit, they were probably like $700-800. And people back then, they weren't making nowhere near like $7.25 an hour when they're working. You had to really save up. You had to take like 2 or 3 jobs if you wanted to buy one of those things, you know? And then people look today and they look at the PlayStation 5, they look at the Xbox Series consoles, and they're like, God damn, that's expensive. $500? Jesus Christ. But let me look that up real quick. Okay, if I can spell, how much were video game consoles in the 80s. I might be way far off. Let's see. How much was the original Nintendo back in 85? Okay. Now, there were some consoles back then that were pretty high in price, depending on the type of console it was. But looking at it now, okay. So when the Nintendo Entertainment System launched in 85 in America, it was priced at $149.99 and came complete with Super Mario Bros., Duck Hunt, a light gun accessory for the Duck Hunt, and an extra controller. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. Back in 1985, $150 for a console, but then you gotta look at it like nobody was making $17, $18 an hour in your standard household. That kind of money was being made by people who had a college degree or worked a government job or something, you know, really good job. But your typical household didn't have that much money. That's why you're sticking with PS3 and PS4 for now. Yeah. Some people are. Some people are still on PS3. You know, they prefer it, you know. They don't do the online shit like a lot of people do. They prefer that stuff, and that's okay, you know. Nobody's telling them to, you know, bump up your console and shit. So yeah, back in the 80s and 90s, you know, consoles like this, you know, they had a different price range. Even video games, it says back in 85, how much were Nintendo games? Those prices ranged anywhere from $25 to $50 for most NES games in the 1980s. So when people today talk about how expensive video games are, $60, $70. Yeah, you have to take inflation into account. Yeah. Today, inflation is very big when it comes to that. Biden's inflation in America today has raised the prices on pretty much everything in sight, from clothes to food, probably to the air we breathe at times, you know? But video games, any kind of media, any form of media today, movies, music, video games, books, anything you enjoy doing, is hit by inflation. And when inflation hits, you know, if you're in a working class, if you're working class like I am, you know, your job will more likely give you a raise, you know, give you more of a pay raise. But when comes more of a pay raise comes more inflation. You can't win. Because, and I know I wasn't going to talk about politics, but I will talk about it a little bit today because it does fit in there. Today's politics. Democrats, the Biden administration and all, they don't give two fucks about you. They're trying to eliminate the middle class. They're trying to make it to where there's only two types of people. The rich and the poor. They don't give a fuck about the poor. Every once in a while they'll toss us a bone. But it's not a big enough bone to feed on. They don't care two fucks about how we live in this society today. But much like we did back in the 80s and the 90s, we have to pretty much, we're pretty much on our own. We are pretty much on our own at this point. When it comes to anything at all. The jobs that we work, the things that we do, we're pretty much on our own. We as parents, or even some of you youngins out there who have parents in today's day and age, probably never get to see them as much because they're forced to work 2 or 3 jobs just so you can grow up in a household with a roof over your head and clothes on your back and food in your stomach. I mean, yeah, it was the same thing back in the day. That's why back in the day, you know, like, shit, if mom and dad were going to be out at work till like 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening, and you got home from school, maybe you were lucky enough to have keys to the house that you could get into, or maybe you went and hung out with some friends. You know, you hung out with some friends in that afternoon, you know? You didn't worry about coming home and getting on your video game system or watching television. Back then, we had friends. Shit, even when we did something wrong and our parents grounded us, that was probably the worst thing for us back then. You're not allowed to hang out with your friends for a week. You can't go outside. I was grounded a couple times. I couldn't go outside. I was upset. I had a Nintendo in the living room. I had my own computer in my bedroom. I didn't want to do any of that. That was boring to me at times. I didn't have too many games for the computer. I only had maybe 5 games for the Nintendo. I was fucking bored, man. Let me tell you, today, yes, I may have access to hundreds of games between my computer and my gaming consoles and shit. There's things that I can do to keep myself occupied. But put in perspective, back when we were children, we didn't have a whole lot of that. Yes, maybe you had that one friend down the street who had the Sega Genesis or the Super Nintendo or whatever, or the Nintendo 64. And they said, come on over, let's play some games together. That was always fun. But like that guy said in the video, it's not about you interacting with a piece of electronic. It's about your interactivity, your interactivity with those around you, your friends. You're having the laughs. You're having a good old time with your friends. You're just happy. You're not bored. You're hanging with your friends. You're doing something. You're interacting with somebody. You're talking to them. That was our fun back in the days. I mean, I'm not saying kids today don't have that interactive ability today. I'm not saying that they have today where they can't go outside and do something. There are some kids that do. But today's generation is flooded by electronics. It's flooded by capitalism. It's flooded by a whole lot of things where they feel they know what our kids want today. They feel like they know what our kids are needing. And I could probably say video games are a new brand of drug. Do I enjoy video games myself? Yes, I do. Whether I'm sitting here with a headset on talking to somebody while playing a video game, or even by myself, I can have fun with it. But I also like to interact with people around me, whether it be family or friends. But I will say, technology has become a new wave drug that kids are hooked to today. Almost as like their minds are manipulated in a sense. What 5-year-old today can get creative and build a house out of Lincoln Logs or Tinker Toys or Legos? They get frustrated with it. They get bored with it. But you give a 5-year-old a cell phone. They know how to access TikTok, YouTube. They know how to change the settings in the phone. They know how to make phone calls. They know how to text their friends. They know how to do all this shit. And I will say, it's definitely something. That is a very intelligent thing. When a 5-year-old knows how to manipulate an electronic device better than us adults. But it's also sad at the same time. Because, back then, even the simplest things that we've used our imaginations on. Sometimes we didn't have people to hold our hand and show us what to do and how to do it. Today, kids do. Certain kids do. If you give a kid a laptop or a tablet, it starts out at Mommy, how do you do this? How do you do that? How do you do this? How do you do that? Yeah, you're going to show them. Yeah. Shit, back in my day, if I asked for help, if my mom didn't know, figure it out yourself. You know, figure it out. You can't tell a kid figure it out today. Oh, they'd be fucking rampaging. They'd be fucking crying and screaming and shit. You know, they would throw the device across the goddamn room and all. It's hilarious. Kids today, their drugs are cell phones, tablets, laptops. And today, if you punish a kid, oh my God, it's like murder. It's like murder. You know, I got my ass beat when I was younger. If I said the wrong thing, if I cussed my parents out, if I cussed my neighbors out, if I cussed my teacher out, if I said or did something wrong, I got my ass beat. Today, people look at it as like child abuse. I look at it like this. It's only abuse when you take it to the extreme. If you leave a bruise on a kid's ass, if you bruise a kid's face, and it's constant over and over, that's when it's abuse. When I'm beating my kid's ass, it's to teach them a lesson. It's called tough love. Tough love. I'll be right back, guys.
They really like it. With Crisco, we're all happy.
Crisco oil. Make it with care. Make it with Crisco. A Ranger never takes the easy way out.
You're reaching deep inside you for things you've never known. Go!
That's why getting into the Rangers is tough and the training's tough.
Be all that you can be.
So it makes me feel like I'm part of something really special.
Be all that you can be.
And I'm not the only one.
And it's all right in the Army.
Travel along this road after a rain, and you'll not only see the green, you'll smell it. Legend says take it in just once, and that fresh, clean feeling will last the rest of your journey. There's a bit of this in every bar of Irish Spring. Ah, the lasting, fresh scent of Irish Spring deodorant soap. The Irish never quit.
She saw a murder they say never happened.
No!
Now she's pursued by a killer they say doesn't exist. Faye Dunaway. Silhouette. Coming up next.
Meet Peter Sinclair. I was a cop too long not to suspect everybody. He turned in his badge, but he's still after justice. This time, we do it my way. Now he works for Alexander Addington. Hold it! Counter-Strike on USA. Tonight at 9, 8 Central.
Mario! Oh, killer game from Nintendo. Dr. Mario, wow. But it ain't what you think. You get to zap these viruses, and with 2 players, you can actually trash the other guy. Remember, kids, try this at home. Hey, you can get it for Game Boy, too.
Fine.
How's that for nostalgia? Dr. Mario. Those are some classic 90s commercials, guys. That's what we had back in the 90s on our televisions. You know, back then where you couldn't skip ads and you were forced to watch commercials and shit. But there were some of the most badass times on television. You know, you see these badass commercials that made you want the newest, latest, hottest toy or video game and to see what movies were coming out on video or what was in theaters and shit. God, commercials were badass back then. Not compared to today. Shit. But yeah, guys, you are watching Tune In Live. We are back from our break. If you guys are just now tuning in, hit that like, subscribe button down below if you're watching us on YouTube. We're also live on kick.com/Arrow Entertainment and twitch.tv/ArrowENT. And one thing I forgot to do at the beginning of the show, and I'm going to do it now, I'm going to do it again at the end of the show. Guys, if you want to buy any of our merchandise, we have a merch store. Links are down below, either in the description section or in the about section. Click the link for our merch store. If you guys want to buy a shirt for Arrow Entertainment or CYPHER Xavier or Loki, we're waiting for Guardian to give us something that he wants to use. We'll figure something up. If you guys want a couple hats, if you want a shirt, hoodie, mug, whatever. And I know that I try not to make them too expensive. I try not to make them too expensive for you guys, you know, because I understand, you know, I'm not going to charge $60 for a hoodie, you know. No, fuck no. Oh, shit. But yeah, if you guys want to buy any merch from the merch store, link is down below. When you go to pay for it, if you want to buy anything, be sure to use the promo code ArrowENT, and you will save 15% on your purchase. So, like I was saying before the commercial break, damn, I hate being sick. I know it's winter time and all these colds will hit you up. I feel like I've been sick since October. I'm always using nasal spray or blow my nose or whatnot. You know, it's all kind of shit going on. Ooh, I wasn't snorting anything. That was my fan. It's a little inside joke if you know the reference. So yeah, kids today, they don't understand. They do not understand what it was like to be grounded back in the day. They will never will. Just give me a second. That should be better. You know, back in the day, like I said, we couldn't go outside. Sometimes our parents did take our video game consoles away. Our parents even got petty at times. If you had a computer, shit, they would take the keyboard or the mouse. They didn't worry about taking the whole box. They didn't worry about taking the monitor. Hell, sometimes they would take the keyboard and mouse. Or maybe they just take the plugs. They would get behind there, unplug it, take the plugs, and say, "You're not getting it back until I say so." Yeah. Yes, we were upset. We were mad. And we were always mad at our parents, you know? Always mad at our parents. But then after that, you may learn a lesson. You may say, "Yes, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. I was stupid. I was reckless. I was this. I was that." We all got punished. You know, actions have consequences. They all do. That's what we learned growing up. Today, kids today, depending on their lifestyle, who they hang around with, who they talk to, if their parents even really give a damn about them today. You know, because my generation, you know, you either learn from, you know, what your parents did with you, or you just didn't care. Me, I like to be old school, old style, you know, like, I try not to be my parents, try not to be my dad, but at times I feel like I am. And the older you get, when you have kids, you begin to realize what your parents must have went through back in the day with us. You know, you must have understand what it's like to ground your child and for what reason, you know? But there's some of us who, yes, there has been unwanted pregnancies or unexpected pregnancies and we end up having kids, and then you got some of those girls out there that just dump their children on the side of the road because they didn't want to take care of them. They weren't ready for a child yet, and that's the saddest thing too, you know? You got all these young girls out there, I don't know what the hell they put in their foods, steroids in the chickens and shit like that, but you got fucking 12, 13-year-old girls with D-cup tits looking like a fucking whore looking like somebody that could be pimped out on the fucking alleyway. And they're getting pregnant. These girls, you're using drugs at an early age. Looking like they're 21, 22 years old. And when you ask them, how old are you? 12. We didn't have that shit growing up. We didn't have no kids back in my day that looked like a fucking 20-year-old model smoking a cigarette. We didn't have that. But that's what kids today are, especially the young girls. They're being injected, they're being fed by steroids and all kind of fucking shit that are being injected in the meats and the foods and stuff. That's why people tell you don't go with processed food or anything that's, go with organic. Go with something that's naturally based, But then again, government has control over all that shit, so they don't really fucking care. But yeah, those are the kind of things I worry about with my kids, Like my daughter, she likes to dress in that new age style that's going around, cut holes in her fucking shirts and shit. I'm like, you know what? Here's what I tell her. You cut a hole in that shirt, you're not getting another shirt. I don't give a fuck what today's lifestyle is. But then you look back at our lifestyles, Yeah, we tolerate that bullshit, yeah. We definitely do. But look at our lifestyles back in the day, The way we used to dress. See, me, I didn't get into that lifestyle at all because I didn't grow up around that type of lifestyle. I had friends and I had classmates who did. Remember Jenkos? Those type of jeans that you would wear, the bell-bottom jeans and Jenkos and shit like that, those type of jeans. Even the ripped jeans where they had the holes ripped in the knees and all, where your knees were bare and all that stuff. How about the people that, whether you're black, white, Hispanic, or whatever, who will wear jeans past their ass cheeks with a fucking belt, with their underwear all the way up? Like, who the fuck invented that lifestyle? I'm not even gonna bother researching that, but who the fuck invented that lifestyle where your pants hang below your fucking ass with a belt? Like, who the hell would want to see that? Like, who the hell would want to present that? I don't want my ass hanging out out of my pants, I want my pants pulled up. I wore jeans, but very rarely. Do I like wearing jeans? Yeah, at times. I just actually got a pair of jeans the other day in the mail, ordered me a pair of jeans. First pair I had in years. Feel like a man. It's a manly thing. That's why I like jeans. It's a manly thing. I love it. Just like, maybe they're comfortable. Maybe it's something I like to wear, especially in the wintertime or whatever. I usually parade around in a pair of shorts. I feel comfortable. I feel cool. Well, not cool as in, yeah, I'm cool, man. I feel, cool and comfortable, I'm relaxed. That kind of thing. But sometimes I just get that mental feeling. I was like, yeah, I really feel like an adult, a true adult, a manly man wearing jeans, that kind of thing. Yeah, back in the day, kids had jeans. You either wore them the wrong way, you wore them past your ass with a belt on them and shit, or you ripped holes in your jeans, or even you had those real baggy jeans where it extended past your heel, and your jeans would get all fucking wet when you're stomping in fucking water or walking in water. You get those wet heels, the wet heel part of your pants, with holes in your jeans and shit. And your parents are like, what the fuck did they do with this pair of pants? Shit, those pair of pants back in the day probably cost like $30 or $40. The same thing they do today. Some are even a little bit more expensive, But the clothing style we had back in the day, even like in the 80s, some in the 90s, you had neon style, you had the punkish style, depending on the type of era. Even a lot of these bands that have come out in the 90s, you were wearing your favorite Nirvana shirt, or maybe a Korn shirt, or Metallica, or whatever. Even the haircuts. People had different haircut styles back in the day. Some boys had the mullets and shit. There were girls that, you had the short hair. Some girls would be like, okay, I'll chop my hair off, but, I don't want my hair to go past my shoulder, the short hair style, Who did that shit, actresses from shows like Married with Children or 90210 or something like that. Something cool. You would see some kind of cool style, some cool lifestyle on a TV show, and you wanted to mimic it. You want to mimic it. Whether it be dye your hair, cut your hair a certain way, wear certain clothes, talk a certain way, You mimic the lifestyle because it was cool on a TV show. It was cool, and then you wanted to make it cool. Whether you're going to show off for your friends at school and stuff. That kind of thing. That was always a big thing. Showing off for your friends. You wanted to mimic something really cool. You wanted to turn some heads. You wanted to be the cool person. You wanted to be popular. It's still a thing, but today it's not. It doesn't hit as hard as it did 20, 30 years ago. God, 30 years ago was 94. God, the movies that came out back then. We had a lot of good movies, didn't we? Back in 93, we had Jurassic Park. 94, we had Forrest Gump. And many other fucking movies that have come out since. The 90s, they had their best lifestyle. They had the best media. They had the best everything in our generation. The music was changing for the good. There was the start of new metal. Korn, bands like Korn. You were midway into like the grunge era with Nirvana and shit, and you had post-grunge, like Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains. All those bands, like the music was really banging. The movies were really good. Movies were winning Oscars left and right back in the 90s, that kind of thing. But sadly, with me, I was 10 years old in 95. I was 9 years old in 94. Some movies I did watch. The music I didn't get into until when I got in high school. Because I grew up on what my parents grew up on, that kind of music, the old stuff, the oldies, 50s, 60s, and 70s, some 80s stuff, That was the kind of music I was into, When it came to video games, all I knew was the 5 video games that existed on my Nintendo. I didn't know there were other video game consoles that were out then. My dad had an Atari 2600. That was a video game system. He got rid of that, bought me an NES for my 5th birthday in 1990. That's all I knew. If there was anything outside the spectrum, whenever we would make visits to my grandparents. My grandparents, they lived in Charlestown, West Virginia. It's only about an hour and a half away. And I grew up with my uncle, my mom's brother, who was born a little late. He's only 2 years older than me. He had all the cool shit, though. We were into the same stuff, though. The same toys, the same TV shows, the same cartoons, the same movies. He had video game systems that I didn't even know about. I'm like, holy shit, I didn't know there was a Super Nintendo or a Sega Genesis. He had them both. He did. My uncle had them both. He had a selection of games for them, too. And whenever we would make a trip up there on the weekend, it would be me, my uncle, my cousin. My cousin, he was just a few months younger than I am. And that's all we would do. We would hang out. We would play outside and shit. Make our own little adventures. My uncle, he had all these plastic toys, from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle line and even Power Rangers. He had swords and shit. We would go outside and make our own adventures. We would pretend that we were the Ninja Turtles or the Power Rangers and shit and run around. That's where our imagination was. I mean, yeah, there were times where we'd be inside in his bedroom, playing video games and shit. But the interaction that you have with people growing up, that's where all the fun is. We had a very vivid imagination back then. We would make up our own adventures. Kids today, they don't really do too much of that. I mean, they do like the floor's lava kind of thing, you know. We didn't have any of that. That would have been probably interesting back in the day. The floor's lava. Holy shit. Climb all over the jungle gym, Junior. I wish that was a thing back in the day, you know. It could have been, you know. It could have been something grand. It could have been something really interesting, you know. But back then, you know, all you had was your imagination and your friends. That was it. That's what kept me going. Even when I'm home, and like I said, I got a Nintendo in the living room. I got a computer in my bedroom. I even had my own stereo. You know, I had a hand-me-down stereo from one of my great uncles. That thing stood about, I don't know, 3.5, 4 foot tall. Had this big-ass speaker built into it. It had AM, FM, 8-track console in the center. And then right above that was this little crevice area that sat a turntable. I was able to play records and shit, and then it was a whole stereo cabinet. And of course, I had my television sitting on top of that, you know, where I watch TV and all. Well, like I said, back then, my television, the way I got my channel, the way I watch shit was either, if I watched cable TV, it was either in my parents' bedroom, the living room, if the TV was free, or if I watched TV in my bedroom, I had those rabbit ear antennas. But let me tell you something. Certain channels, they did broadcast in. Like, if I watched Fox Kids in the afternoon or whatever, it came in on my TV. As long as my rabbit ear antennas, you know, was able to bring that feed into my house. But that's what I was watching, you know. But even though I had all this stuff, and I had toys too. I did have toys. I didn't play much with them and shit, but I did have toys. I had board games. I had puzzles. I had a whole bunch of shit back in the day. But my biggest thing was going outside and playing with my friends. I even had a case of Hot Wheels and Matchbox cars. Take them outside, right across the street from where my house was, you know. My friends would join me. We would sit there in the rocks and dirt, and we would pull the cars out, and we would have a little car adventure. You know, we play with cars in the dirt and shit. You know, it was fun. We would even do it in my yard on the front porch. Those were the fun, simple days, man. And I know kids today, they still play outside, but what kids today actually play with toys? If your child today plays with toys, plays with action figures, I gotta say, you raised them right. You raised them good. Because I feel like even though they still make a toy, you know, they still make toys for kids, you know, up to a certain age, like, you know, toddlers and toddlers up to like 3 or 4, yeah, they still play with toys. You know, you gotta give them something to do. You don't expect a 2-year-old to, you know, fiddle with a cell phone or a tablet. But then again, you got idiots out there that are saying, oh, well, don't assume your child's gender, you know, like, you know, they weren't born a male or female. You can't assume their gender when they're born. Like, fuck that shit. Like, what the hell has happened to the mentality of people today? You know, when you're born, when you have a child, they're born either male or female. They're either a boy or a girl. Nowadays, you got the entire retarded mentality. You got idiots telling you, don't assume your baby's gender. Maybe they didn't want to be born. Have you ever thought about that? It's sickening that today's lifestyle has been influenced by idiots. That's all fueled by the left-wing people. You know? And once again, I hate to bring politics into it, but that is where the influence comes in at. Democrats, woke people, SJWs, LGBTs, all that fucking shit has a big negative influence on today's lifestyle. Because today's trend is kids trying to figure out what they are or who they are. My stepdaughter, I feel sad every fucking day, just about, when I hear that, her online persona is some boy named Jack, But that's her, that's her. I just don't want my child, my daughter, she's 13. She'll be 14 this year. I don't want her to come to me and say, Dad, I want to be a boy. That's my lifestyle. I'm going to look at her and say, you know what? As long as my taxes are paying for you till you're 18, you're going to be a young girl. You're female. I don't want to see you ruin yourself to today's stupid bullshit. If you want to identify as gay, those are your feelings. I'm not going to stop you there. But you're not going to come out and say, I want to have a sex change because these people tell me to do so. No, the fuck you're not. As long as you live under my roof, those ideologies out there, those ideologies, they stay on the outside. I don't want that shit in my house. We didn't have any of that stupid bullshit back in the day. We didn't have that shit back in the day. Yes, you had the gay community, you had the LGBT back then. They stretch as far as the 60s or the 70s or whatever, the LGBT shit. Today is a lot more ridiculous, a lot more idiotic. But back then, shit, some people were afraid to come out and say they were gay. I say, you know what? Flaunt it. I don't give a fuck if you're gay. Just don't try to fucking kiss my ass or suck my dick, and then we're all good, right? But other than that, I don't care if you're gay. I'm still gonna talk to you. I'm still gonna hang out with you, In fact, there's a little embarrassing tidbit I will let you guys in on, okay? Back in the 5th grade, there was this kid in my class. Yeah, let those people blow my mind. Those people blow my mind who say, don't assume your gender. Don't assume your baby's gender. Yeah. Yeah, those people can rot in hell when they die. But I will say, back in the day, I knew what the term gay was. I knew what gay people were, Back in the 3rd or 4th grade. And there's always this one kid when you're in school that will pick on you or bully you for whatever reason, right? And I remember his name to this day. His name was Shane Miller. Shane Miller. I wonder if he's still around today. Hope he ain't one of those that fell victim to fucking drugs and shit, But his name was Shane Miller. And he was, I wouldn't say quite a bully, but he used to pick on me. So one day I went up to him. I said, "Yeah, you might not want to pick on me much longer. I'm gay. I have feelings for you." He knew what gay meant too. He backed off. Oh, he did not want to be around me. He didn't want to be around me at all. It wasn't until 5th grade when I told him. And I started hanging out with him a little bit, friend-wise or whatever. And I told him, I said, "Hey man, I wasn't really gay. I'm not gay. I just said that because you were picking on me and I just wanted you to leave me alone." He understood. When we were all kids, when we were kids, a lot of us were fucking bastards, We were all little bastards. We were all little motherfuckers, We got picked on or we picked on somebody, We didn't have the best of a past when it came to childhood, That was all of us. Me, at times, I was kind of shy in new crowds. I didn't really talk to people. I didn't really make too many friends. Sometimes I felt embarrassed, so I always kept to myself. I was always the quiet one throughout high school. I had that small group of friends that I hung with, but when it came to sitting in class, I was always quiet. I was always paying attention, doing this and doing that, because I always seen the consequences of other kids around me who would get in trouble and get sent to the principal's office or something. I did my share of time in the principal's office back then. I did my time. I've had a couple days where I was sitting in the principal's office all day. It was boring. It felt like it was just dragging on. Here's what happened with that. And I haven't talked about this in a long time. I've thought about it at times. It's so embarrassing, but let me tell you something. When we were kids, we do some embarrassing fucking shit. So, I had this friend who lived in my neighborhood. His name was Billy. And we got on the bus together one morning. And he pulled out and he showed me his nunchucks. He had a pair of nunchucks he's bringing to school. I forgot why. I was like, cool, let me see them. Can I see them? He said, yeah. So he let me see them. And I didn't think anybody was going to see it, But I'm looking at them and I twirled them in the bus aisle a little bit. But then somebody said, hey, he's got nunchucks back there. So I pulled them in, gave them to my friend. And as soon as we got to school, bus driver looked at me and my friend Billy. Yes, whose nunchucks were they? Billy said, they're mine. And I said, yeah, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. Well, you guys are going to the principal's office because you could have hurt somebody. So, I went straight to where I was supposed to go. I was in 2nd grade. Each grade was divided by certain sections in the building, And I was paying for my lunch. And what we called it, it was, they called it the pod, the center of the section. The elementary school that I went to. So, let's say the 2nd grade section had a great big, had a great big opening. You go in, and you got 5 different classrooms in this section. And you started out on the left, and you went all the way around to the right. And each section was divided by walls, but they had great big openings, too, to the pod. The pod was the center of those sections. That's where, each grade, they would come out and sit down and watch a movie, or they would have, a little special announcement to make, the kids and all. But in the morning time, you would have this one teacher who sat at this desk, and you would line up. If you were buying lunch that day, you would take lunch money up there, and you tell them what you want to buy. They would write you down with your name. You would pay, and then lunchtime, you would go get your stuff. They would check you off at the end of the line, and you would have lunch. So I was in the lunch line, and then somebody told me, the principal wants to see you. You need to go to the principal's office after you order lunch. Okay. I ordered my lunch, and I was nervous, too. I was nervous. So then I go down to the principal's office, told him what happened. And the principal looked at us. He's like, well, you guys are going to be spending the day in here today with me. Both of y'all. And I'm going to keep you guys separated. William, you're going to be sitting up here at this round table up here. Michael, you're going to be sitting in the back hallway here. We're going to put you in a study carrel. And whatever work that your teachers have planned for you today, I'm going to bring them down and you're going to do your work. Lunchtime, you're going to go get your lunch. You're going to bring it here and eat it. There will be no recess for you all. And you all will leave when I say you can leave. That was a long, boring day. I spent 7.5 hours sitting in a study carrel doing work that I didn't understand what the fuck I was doing, Had math, I had language arts, I had a whole packet of stuff that I had to do, and it was going to be turned in the next day. Some of the stuff I would have had to sit in class to learn. I didn't know any of this shit. I was taking educated guesses, Lunchtime came around. I went, got my lunch. came back. Now, at the end of the day, I was waiting for him to come by and tell me that it was okay to go back to the class to get my stuff. So I didn't wait, really. I asked the front desk if I could go, and they said, I guess. I'll ask the principal when he gets back. So I went back to classroom, grabbed my book bag, had maybe like 5 or 10 minutes left in class. I sat there, and I was like, yeah, I was telling my friends, yeah, I spent the day in the office, da-da-da-da. But then the principal calls me back down to the office. And he's like, did you get permission? Did you get my permission to leave? And I said, well, I asked them. They said I can go back and get my stuff. I didn't want to let you. You would have had enough time to go back and get your stuff from there, and we would have hit the bus. And that was my biggest thing. I did not want to miss the bus. I don't want to be fucking left alone, at school. But because I left the office, and this principal was a severe fucking asshole. He really was. His name was Dr. Pope. So he told me that since I left the office prematurely at the end of the day to get my stuff, that I was going to have to spend the next day in the office. Which was bullshit. I had to spend 2 fucking days in the office. The second day I was there because I left 5-10 minutes before the bell rang to get my fucking book bag and shit. So the following day, I went, ordered my lunch, and I brought my book bag back to the office. And he sat me in the same study carrel. And again, I sat there another 7.5 hours and did work. He checked on me every now and then, and if I needed to go use the bathroom, he let me. Because where the study carrel sat, because there was different rooms that are interconnecting with the office. And I was literally like right across from the doorway to the nurse's office. And they had a bathroom in there. So if I need to use the bathroom, I go in that bathroom and use it, But I sat in that office for the whole second day. And then when he came out at the end of the day, he said, you can leave. Don't miss your bus. Because let me tell you, there was one time that I left out of that school late. And my bus was almost gone. I had to run after my bus before it left out of the lot. I was tapping on the side of the bus just to get on. Man, was I out of breath that day. Shit. But yeah, that was the only time I ever really spent any time in a fucking office like that. There was a couple other incidents and all, that had happened where I had to go to the office, but that was probably like the only true time that I spent in the office. Yeah, we've all done some fucking shit growing up. Let me tell you, we've all done some shit. Today, kids are sent to the office, but kids today are a lot worse than what we were back then. Back then, if we mouthed off at an administrator or a principal or a teacher, oh, you best believe we would definitely get it when we got home. Our mothers and fathers, oh, they didn't give a fuck. You got the belt when you got home. You were grounded. You got the belt. You had shit taken away from you. Today, I don't see too many kids who are grounded today. But when you do ground them, it's like trying to tame a fucking lion in the open. I've seen videos of parents taking tablets and game consoles and shit away from their kids. And what do? They proceed to tear the fucking house up. There was one where this little motherfucker, he tore up every room in the house, kitchen, living room, bedroom. Busted mirrors, busted TVs, the stuffing torn out of furniture and shit. Broken doors. And possibly all over a fucking possibly all over this kid's electronics being taken away from them. And today, a lot of parents don't know how to be parents. They don't. Yes, I can sit there and honestly say that I've sort of fallen into that category. Where it's like, here's a phone, here's a laptop, leave me alone. But I've gotten a lot better than that. You know, I would like to interact with my kids. You know, I want to make sure my kids don't fall into that category that can be toxic. Because kids today, they don't know how to interact with other beings. I'm glad that my kids have friends. I'm glad to see that some kids have friends. There's even a couple kids that my stepdaughter, we would allow her to have them over at the house. And their parents would tell us, you don't really hang out that much outside. You don't really have that many friends. We're glad to see that somebody, you know, wants to do something with them. You know? A lot of kids today don't have a social life. Their social life is in the classroom and on the playground. That's their social life. Outside of school, a lot of kids are kind of sheltered. They don't want to go outside, or they don't have anybody to hang out with. They're sheltered in their houses with a cell phone, a laptop, a computer, PS5 or an Xbox, a game of Fortnite. Maybe they're playing with somebody online. Who the hell knows? But kids today, they don't know what it's like to what we had growing up. I've been through a lot. And I'm one of the grateful ones that have never had the lifestyle of abusive parents or parents who have separated on bad terms. I'm lucky to have not had that. I've had parents who stuck together. Did they fight and argue? Yes, they did at times. What couple doesn't? You know, if you don't fight and argue with your spouse every once in a while, something's going to happen. Something bad's going to happen. You want to make sure you get all your flaws and all your opinions out there to each other in one great big session. Whether you're beating each other up or cussing each other out. And kids today, the only thing that they see is maybe dad hitting mom, mom hitting dad for no reason. They split, and that's that. You got so many divorced couples out there. You got so many kids that are growing up, you know, looking at mom and dad separated, and then they're blaming themselves for it. I mean, it's always been a thing, you know. Kids are always the one who's blamed themselves for the parents splitting up. It's always a very depressive thing. It's a common thing, you know. It's nothing new. It's always happened. But luckily, I've never experienced that lifestyle. I've had friends who have done it, and I could never understand what they've went through. I never could. I would hear about this stuff, but I could never imagine what that's like. And kids today, they get so depressed. Kids back then got depressed too. You know, they got picked on. You know, they got bullied in schools. And that's one thing that has not changed in the last 30, 40 years. Is when a child is afraid to say something or do something, their biggest reach out is suicide. Because they feel like their parents don't love them. They feel like their friends don't want them. And they end up killing themselves. They're getting bullied in school constantly. They kill themselves. But then there's another trend that has popularized itself very negatively over the last 30-some years. School shootings. They have become a more common thing today. And it's been bastardized by the government. School shootings have become a bastardized thing by the government, used by the government to push agendas. Take away your firearms, take away your guns. School shootings, it's a very tragic issue. It's a very tragic thing. Like, how do you deal with the fact that your child was shot and killed for nothing? As a parent, you should never have to bury your child 6 feet under. Never. And bullying in school, that's what it leads to. And kids are afraid to come to their parents and say that they're being bullied because they're afraid it's going to happen to them if they, you know, if the bully ends up being suspended or taken out of school, and they're like, oh, you told? Well, I'm going to do something about it. They're afraid for life. They're afraid for their life. That's always been a thing. But in today's day and age, it gets bastardized to the point where it's like, oh, we don't care about the kid who was bullied. We don't care about the kid who did the shooting. We care about the fact that a gun was used, and this is why guns need to be banned. No. This is why parents today need to sit with Junior and explain to him why they are wrong for what they're about to do. This is why parents need to grow up today and do their job as parents. Do I have hobbies? Do I have fun doing my hobbies? Yes, I do. But when it's time to parent, you parent. Yes, I can look at my kids as friends, but I'm a father first before I'm a friend. I've told my kids about the dangers of being online and who you talk to and shit. Sometimes today, kids don't understand certain things that we try to teach them. So you try to lean on them and say, look, if this happens, that's going to happen. For every action, there's a consequence. And then when something happens to your child or your child does something, yes, as parents, sometimes we blame ourselves and ask ourselves, what did we do wrong? What could we have done better to prevent this or keep this from happening? And the answer is nothing. You've done nothing wrong. There's nothing more you could have done. You would have done your part as a parent to teach them right from wrong. It's up to the kids today to decide if they want to stick with that curriculum. If they want to stick with the idea of, am I going to have a consequence if I do this? Or do I just go ahead and do it anyway and say, fuck it? That's what happens. You know, life today, kids, as outgoing as they can be at times, they self-isolate. They isolate all their problems. They isolate all their emotions. Kids today, they're not very open with their parents. They're not very open with the public at times. It's a saddening thing. It truly is. And I can sit here and ramble on and on about all the stuff that I had growing up, you know, all the lifestyle that I had growing up, you know, the toy line, the toys we played with, the TV shows and movies that we've watched, the music that we've listened to, the video games that we had growing up, the books, everything. Was my lifestyle better than what it is today? I would definitely want to say it's equal to, because there are kids today that still will go outside and hang out with their friends. There are still kids today that will do the things that I did 30 years ago. And that's good, because you're being raised right. You know, you'll have parents who actually care about you. and trust that you're going to be okay. You know, back in my day when I was outside, you know what my curfew was? When the street lights came on and the sun was going down. My ass was to be inside the house. Did I want to leave my friends? No. I'll be having too much fun. You know, when you're having fun and your parents tell you got a half hour before you come in, that half hour goes by fast. It feels like 10 minutes have passed by. And it's done. That's sad. But kids today, they feel like they have it better. You know, they can come in from outside and take their baths, take their showers, get on the computer for a little bit, get on their tablet, get on their phone, whatever, before they go to bed. What happened to all the interactive things that, you know, kids were growing up to be doing, you know? Do kids play board games with parents today? Some of them still do. It's a trend that's being faded out, but there are still people that carry on that trend. They carry on that legacy. But I feel like, and as that video said at the beginning, the millennials are probably going to be the last, most real generation of people out there. So I would say, shit, millennials out there, listen, teach your kids well. Teach your kids what to do in situations when something goes south. Teach your kids about problem solving. Teach your kids about what's fun and what's not. Kids today have it so much easier at times than we had growing up. Today they got wireless internet on whatever device they're using. Wi-Fi. 5G signal for cell phones. Back then, we didn't have cell phones. We had these phones, they're landline phones. They were connected to a wire that went into the wall. You make telephone calls out. There was no such thing as a text message. If you wanted to surf the World Wide Web, the internet, had to have a phone line. You had to have an internet connection. You had to have a browser on your computer. You had to make sure that mom and dad or grandma wasn't on the telephone when you connected to the internet. It was basically like running up the phone bill, but you know, you're using the internet. You didn't have a separate line for it. Nothing was wireless. You had to wait 60 seconds to connect to the internet, and then you would have to wait for browsers or websites to load up all that data. Kids today, you could open up a browser and it's instant. Everything's right there. You had no lines holding you down. Nothing like that. How about back in the day when you wanted to watch a new movie? You either went to the theaters with your family, or you waited till that movie came out on video like almost a year after it came out in theaters. And your family spent that Friday or Saturday night going to Blockbuster Video, renting those movies or video games. And you couldn't wait to get home to watch them or play those video games that you've rented. Nowadays, everything is a simple convenience. Everything's a convenience at your fingertips. You can hold a remote control up to the television, push a button, and you got Netflix, you got Hulu, you got Crunchyroll, you got Peacock. You have all these live services that have dozens upon dozens of movies to choose from. Same thing with video games. If you got an Xbox, if you got a PlayStation, if you got a Nintendo Switch, yes, they still make physical copies of video games. But if you're somebody like me who buys them digital, and you know, it's a simple convenience of pushing a button to open a game up, rather than get up, pull a game from the shelf, and put it in. And I would be one of those people too who would collect physical media. But we've gotten to the point in our lives where we're lazy. We're just downright lazy. We've chosen an easy way in life right now. The most convenient possible. Just to sit on our asses and push a button. And we have, boom, a movie. Boom, a TV show. Even music. You know, back in the day when we wanted to listen to a song, shit, I had 45s and vinyl records. If I wanted to play a record, I had to get up, change the record, flip it over, whatever. How about cassette tapes? One side rolls out, take the tape out, turn it on the other side, and play it. It's kind of like playing in reverse. How about a compact disc, CDs? Shit, sometimes we were even lucky to have a stereo that had like 3 to 5 CD changer in a stereo. You would pull out 3 to 5 CDs from these jewel cases, put them in there, and you get the remote and you play them on the stereo. Nowadays, you got the convenience of Amazon Music or Spotify. You pay for those services. Do you get every single song on there? Fuck no. Shit, that's why since the good old days of Napster, I've acquired every fucking song out there that I like. I've used Napster, I've used LimeWire, BearShare, Kazaa, and that is where music went down into the digital era. Same thing with movies. Everything was convenient. You could download that stuff on the internet, you could watch, you could listen to it. Even video games made it their way in there possible too. So we changed the way our media is being listened to, played, and watched. Somebody create this one little program to make it convenient for people to have music at the click of a fingertip or a click of a button, and boom, the digital era was born. Programs like Napster changed it gradually. It changed it. And today, do we kick ourselves for it? We probably do, because we were part of that technology. Yes, there are people that are still buying physical media and prefer physical media. Shit, if I had the room for it, I would too. But there's a lot of things that we have changed, that we have had an impact on over the last 30 years. And it's come into our children's lives. But you know what? As an old 38-year-old person, and I know people will say, you're still young. I'm like, no, I'm hitting middle age. I'm hitting middle age. But there's one thing that I would love to do, is sit with my kids and reminisce about when I grew up and how things have changed growing up. My kids are amazed when I tell them that YouTube is much older than they are. I was around when YouTube hit. I was around when the internet hit. I was around when the PlayStation 2 hit or the PlayStation 3 hit. I remember those days. Kids today would be like, wow, you're like a dinosaur. Yeah. But that is one thing I love to do, is educate people. I love to educate people. If there's a kid out there who loves video games, I love to sit and talk with them and educate them about video games. It's just my thing. I love doing that thing. I love doing that. That's like when you were growing up and you were sitting at Grandpa's house and Grandpa was telling you stories about the war when he was in Vietnam or the Korean War or World War II or whatever, you know? You know, didn't your grandparents tell you a whole bunch of cool stories growing up and shit that you remember to this day? That's something of a thing that I like to do. Is reminisce and tell stories. I love being able to do that, you know? And of course, having a platform like what you guys are watching me on now, telling you stories, reminiscing about certain things that I had growing up back in the day. As some of you guys are probably in your teens, some of you are probably in your 20s, and you probably weren't around when the internet became a thing. You probably weren't around when this became a thing or that became a thing. But one thing I love to do, and at my age is share that information. Share those stories. Does life truly end here? It doesn't have to. It really doesn't. It's all about if you decide to pass the torch and who you pass the torch onto. That life doesn't have to end. Sadly, it's evolving into something that is a convenience for our kids today. But look at what we had to do growing up to fight for that convenience. What we had to do for that fun we had. We can say we had simpler times, yeah. How a lot of us today, we grew up in dark times. Grew up in households that were broken. Had abusive parents. We got bullied in schools. But you know what resonated with us back then, to those of us who have suffered greatly with that? It wasn't video games. Sometimes it wasn't even movies. It was the music that we grew up with. Bands like Linkin Park and Korn. Music like that resonated with a lot of us. It had those messages. And to this day, people will tell you, music has saved my life. And I'm sure a lot of you guys out there who are rewatching this and listening, you probably feel the same. You probably heard the same. You probably know it. And you probably agree. Something like music back in the day has helped a lot of people cope with depression and sadness. We've had such depressing times. You know, who doesn't remember storming away to their bedroom or that one little hiding area that you had after a fight with your parents or seeing your parents go at it with each other and you couldn't take it anymore? Who doesn't remember going and turning their stereo all the way up or putting that pair of headphones on and just blasting Korn or Metallica or Alice in Chains or even in the early 2000s, Disturbed or Linkin Park or anything like that? That was the true music there of our generation. We had some good stuff going on. Today, what do kids have? Taylor Swift. Is Taylor Swift going to resonate with you about suicide and being bullied in school and your kids or your parents breaking up and fighting with each other? Fuck no. This bitch is out there singing about people who hate her and talking about boyfriends that broke up with her and shit. To me, that's garbage music. She's a garbage person. But we had it so good back in the day growing up. Like I said, the music we had resonated with us. Today's music, garbage. That's all it is. No rhyme or reason, no real meaning, no true meaning at all. Just garbage. That's all it was. But I will end it here on that note. Once again, does life truly end here? It doesn't have to. It's never too late to pass the torch and give meaning to that torch, to keep it lit for generations on end. Millennials. Our generation doesn't have to be the last great generation. We can improve upon it. We can make it better. We can pass it down. Remember that. While we grew up with some of the best damn shows and music and movies and video games, everything, that was our generation. We're turning into our parents now, so it's like any music that our kids are listening to today, we're sitting there like, ugh, what is this fucking garbage? That's what our parents said to us back in the day. when we were listening to the music that changed us. It's every generation. It happens. Don't lie. You can admit it. We're doing the same thing. But anyway, guys, we're going to end it here on this note. Just shy of 2 hours. Hope you guys enjoyed today's episode of the Tune In Live podcast. If you're watching it live right now on twitch.tv/ArrowENT, kick.com/Arrow Entertainment, on our YouTube channel, Arrow Entertainment. Be sure to follow, like, and subscribe. All the links for our social media, Discord, our sponsor, and our merch store. Everything is down below. Also, the links for our team members' YouTube channels, Twitch, and Kick channels, they're all down below as well if you guys want to go over and support them. So this week, I might bring you another stream. I might bring you a gameplay stream sometime this week. I'm not too sure. I'm going to try to film some videos for you guys this week. And Friday, as always, 10 a.m. Be here for Tom and I as we kick off Utter Random Crap, as always. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me today for this episode of Tuned In Live. Hope you guys have a blessed evening. And until next time, guys, stay tuned in.
What we do here is go back.